Okay, so we have a little quote from Rousseau's Emile, his big book on education. This is in page 443 of my translation by Alan Bloom. You know how to suffer and die. By the way, this is the imaginary tutor talking to the imaginary student. You know how to suffer and die. You know how to endure the law of necessity in physical ills. But you have not yet imposed laws on the appetites of your heart, and the disorder of our lives arises from our affections far more than from our needs. Yeah, so that kind of strikes me because sometimes nowadays I hear a lot of like talk about getting your needs met, and if 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 someone is acting improperly, they maybe don't have their needs met. So I tend
Mhm.
to emphasize in my thinking a lot the importance of needs. And so that's why this passage struck me, because he talks about the affections being maybe more dangerous, and disorder of our lives arises more from our affections than from our needs. Yeah, what do you think about that? What strikes you about that?
Um, well, yeah, I was thinking a lot about the affections and how like those are kind of dangerous because they're kind of elusive and there's lots of deception with those. So, for example, when we're like young or at a developmental stage where we may not have like wisdom to judge those, like it's very easy to kind of fall into kind of addiction with those, especially because as humans, we have like a very addictive kind of nature when it comes to like, I don't know, just whatever the affection or like might be. So, um, yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, if only bad things always felt bad and good things always felt good, I mean, humanity would just be in some kind of like half utopic kind of state, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
it'd be
some,
like so simple,
yeah,
but it's not because just feeling things that feel good aren't necessarily good, and that's just very odd and confusing when you think about it.
yeah,
Because how can that
confusing.
be?
I'm
And why
sorry?
did, yeah, because how can that be? And like, why is it this way? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, why does it feel good but it's bad, and why do many good things feel bad? Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's a lot of, you mentioned development and wisdom. I think that is a lot of development and wisdom, just being able to kind of cut through all that confusion and discern in the chaos what is truly good and what is truly bad. How do you think we do that? How do you think we deal with our affections?
um, yeah, kind of like the quote says, kind of determining affections from needs. But then there's the other kind of not kind of going to needs. We kind of need to kind of recognize and accept that needs often bring a lot of pain and discomfort, which people don't want to really hear about nowadays. So I think we're kind of in a culture that focuses a lot on the affections and the idea that if it doesn't feel good, then to not do it or to it's important to be comfortable and
Yeah, there
and
is
safe.
some way in
Yeah.
which we've moved the sense of the sacred from some deity or even principles or something to the self, and therefore, however one feels is not really to be questioned and is to sort of be gone for. Yeah, in fact, I think sometimes people go against even happiness or well-being because they have this idea of like what what they think is better for them or more like an adventurous kind of life or something like that. There's a lot of yeah, a lot of confusion, like you said nowadays, I think. A lot of feeling of confusion, so it's hard to know what to do. Seems like in any time, one wants to develop wisdom, and there's different sorts of vices and virtues of that time that one has
Mm.
to carefully discern.
Yeah.
In the quote, it says, "You have not yet imposed laws on the appetites of your heart, and the disorder of our lives arises from our affections far more than from our needs." Yeah, the appetites of your heart. I like that phrasing.
Mm.
How do you think we have to impose some kind of rules, some kind of laws, principles, maxims on the appetites of our
Uh,
heart?
I think so. Yeah, kind of, because I think if we kind of think of it as an appetite of the heart, there's like we can kind of see affections kind of being like the instant gratifications that will like fill up your appetite quickly for the moment. And then
Yeah.
needs are kind of like the long-term kind of healthy food that will fill you
Yeah.
up, but will be kind of long-term to kind of see results. Um,
That seems true of other types of food as well, like with culture, with literature, with learning and
mhm,
things. I mean,
mhm.
I think things that are maybe more worthwhile are more difficult in the present, but yeah, the effects are deeper and longer lasting. Sort of like pop music, junk food or something.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I think that could be maybe one kind of maybe not kind of rule, but maybe some kind of idea to kind of identify like what's an affection and what's a need that we can kind of follow. Um,
Yeah. I mean, going with the food metaphor or maybe even exercise, yeah, it seems like, I mean, I feel lazy now. I don't want to exercise. When I'm exercising, well, I kind of enjoy exercising, but I have a habit of it. But let's say you're really out of shape, exercising is maybe kind of a drag. Um, but then afterwards, maybe assuming you did a good exercise session and not extreme, you'll feel like somewhat calm and someone energetic and things. Yeah, it seems like the effect there you go for, and that indicates that a need has been met, and you can reflect back and think how an affection, you felt like just sitting on the couch, and that was therefore, misguiding you. But yeah,
yeah.
maybe look at the effects of things like if you meditate, if you're kind to people, if you work hard at 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 meaningful tasks, you'll kind of see, your house is more in order. Literally, your room and house will be cleaner, but also your whole life will maybe be more flowing in order. You struggle with appetites at all?
Oh, yeah, it's like I'm kind of naturally like physically lazy and like I like to eat and I have a condition that makes me feel more tired. So the one appetite I struggle with is kind of food and wanting to just rest all the time. So yeah, I kind of get the instant gratification of the appetite to kind of laze around and stuff. But then in the long term, like I feel worse about myself and like unhealthy. So my actual need for taking care of my health isn't wasn't met
Hmm.
because I neglected that for like an, a short term like affection that would only felt good in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also live in a world, this has been much commented on, but we live in a world that feeds our affections, um, the marketing and the consumerism and things. I mean, they're trying to get us to eat food we don't need to eat
Hmm.
when we're not naturally sort of hungry and consume all kinds of things that are not good for us. I think we've talked in a previous podcast the idea of Eric Fromm's differentiation between being and having needs. So that seems like a really good. I don't know. It seems like it impugns maybe our consumer culture. Uh, but do you remember this idea? We have being needs like for love, and we have having needs. We need some property, some food, and everything.
Oh, okay.
But the John Vervaeke points out that we companies will often give us modal confusion. They'll give us confusion as to which mode we're in, whether we have a being need or a having need. So we have a need for love or a need for maturity, but the market tries to tell us, well, for your need for love, you can have something, buy something,
Mhm.
sex like pornography or something like that, or
Yeah,
OnlyFans or something. I don't know. You have
yeah,
a
I'm
need
thinking.
for connection, for sexual congress or communion or whatever, without sounding too much of a prude or something. But yeah, here's a product for you, or
Mhm.
here's a transaction for you, or you have a need for maturity, for independence, and here's a car. Or although car is a little bit different because that can
Mhm.
give you, without all the bells and whistles and the shininess
Mhm.
and the social competition, I mean, that can give you. But anyway, yeah, they're feeding on this idea. You need a new car. It will give you identity. It will, you know, yeah. So that's called modal confusion.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't know much about this, but I feel like we could talk at some point, in a very deep way about confusion, about how so much is like con men and street hustlers and soapbox proselytizers
Mhm.
are trying to induce confusion in people, you know.
Yeah,
Because they have some snake oil in some way to sell us, some
yeah.
project to enlist us in.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
would
that'd be
almost want, yeah.
interesting.
Mm.
'Cause, yeah, I imagine it's a confusion about our feelings and like interpretations of them and things like that. Uh, but
Sorry, what are you saying? That yes, it's not merely natural to the situation, but there are many outside forces that would make us even more confused than we would normally be.
um, yeah, and then just kind of going back of like the kind of inducing feelings that are not facts, kind of like what just what you're talking about, just because it feels good doesn't mean it is good in
Yeah,
reality.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think back to an early advertisement I once saw somewhere for like a tractor or something. I hope
Mhm.
I'm getting this right, but I feel like, and it was just like telling you, here are the qualities of this product and how it could benefit you, something that you need, you farmer. And I feel like advertising has gotten so much more abstract and emotional since then. You barely know. It's almost like every 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 commercial is selling a lifestyle and an identity
Mhm.
and overwhelming you with an emotion or more than one emotion,
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the appetites, the inclinations of the human heart are unlimited. Um, it's a sort of, I think it's sort of a well-known trope in like political philosophy that the tyrant is like, you don't have to think of the tyrant as like a person uh, who has, who is characterized by their dictatorial power. Obviously, that's true, but instead, going more for the emotional developmental angle, you could say the tyrant is characterized by infantile, unlimited appetites and desires. This is a person who they just cannot have enough control, cannot have enough fake love emanating from their inferiors, things like that. And it's kind of like uh, a really powerful 3-year-old, you know.
That's a
And
scary thought.
yeah, it is scary. Yeah. And it's a 3-year-old that has sexual desire too, so that's
Mm.
even more scary. So it's yeah, unlimited sorts of, I don't know, perversion or just uh, terrible kinds of things in that way, half sublimated and not.
Mm.
And of course, the opposite of that seems like the good ruler who does not care about taking credit, and is selfless and everything. And there have
Mm.
been some rulers in history that have approximated that, but yeah, it seems like the infant terrible is kind of more the norm for monarchs. Yeah. So you've talked to me some about, yeah, difficulty, you have a sweet tooth, and yeah, it's difficult to kind of modulate the physical appetites. Um have you found, I mean, obviously there's certain just things about regulating one's body and mind. Uh do you feel like things have helped you? You you feel like I think meditation maybe is the biggest supposed help, according to some people I follow, some things I've read, including the Richard Davidson book about the called The Emotional Life of Your Brain, which we've talked about on this podcast a little bit. But yeah, he talks about how meditation seems to be the thing that helps the mind regulate itself. Because it makes sense,
Mm.
because in meditation you're learning to concentrate on something without becoming obsessed with it
Mm.
and without having intrinsic interest in it, but continually like renewing that interest and not being reactive to the myriad, thoughts, desires, fantasies, images that are almost constantly popping up in your head. And sort of like it's almost the very image of the storm of human experience, and you're learning to to just be in it and not to react against it. But yeah, what do you find has maybe helped you with
Mhm.
your appetites, the appetites, especially the appetites of your heart, if we can go beyond the appetites of the stomach? But yeah, talk about whatever
Mm.
appetites you want.
I feel like learning about Stoic ideas really helps me.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's basically all about ignoring or not paying attention to the appetite.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Any
don't
particular?
remember like which I can't think of a particular one. But and I'm sure there were like lines about like uh just kind of, yeah, just not being influenced by like discomfort or whatever might keep you from doing things.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing supposedly Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal that he does every morning when he wakes up, or early in the day anyway, is that he tells himself, like, today will be full of, and I don't remember exactly what he says, but it's basically all these negative experiences he is sure he is going to have with sort
Mm.
of imbeciles and sycophants and, incompetence and everything. And
Yeah.
it's like preparing you for that. And I don't think so that you can feel like the day is going to be a drag at the very beginning, but more like just this is real life. Like there's going to be a lot of this stuff. And when it happens, go with it and do your best and another
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like accepting what can be and just coming to terms with that. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that kind of helps.
Mm. Do you, I know you have a job where you do that I used to have as well, that maybe you have to deal with a lot of, uh, sort of simultaneous, unforeseen problems with maybe and sometimes people who are rather difficult to comprehend or for them to understand what what is being asked of them, or
Mhm.
like do you find this kind of Marcus Aurelius kind of thing to have been helpful? Have you ever done it?
Well, yeah, I've done it before. Sometimes I've been telling myself that, yeah, I'll come across incompetent people. There will be no communication about things as it often is there. And that there will be maybe annoying people, around me. So
Do you find that
when I've
that's
done
helped,
that,
that sort of
yeah,
negative mantra has helped you?
yeah, I think it's helped me. Like I actually should do it more consistently before I go in. Um,
Yeah, I
because
think that's mm,
if I don't, I start slipping back into the pattern of expecting to come across good communication, competency, and all that, which isn't really the case.
yeah, our sort of, I don't know if it's the default mode network, but anyway, our default tends to be, well, I mean, what everybody knows, we want things to go a certain way, and our mind kind of prepares for that, which is kind of foolish to prepare for what you want rather than for what is and will be. I guess that's a lot of like wisdom, is just not living in this world and not living in your fantasy in your head. And being happy though, you want to be wise, and but you also want to be somewhat happy. Now I don't mean like utterly joyous, like prancing around, twirling around and everything, but one wants to be kind of calmly, present
Mhm.
and have a slight, little Mona Lisa smile.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I really like the stoic kinds of ideas. And yeah, I should say that I believe, just like with a lot of meditative meditation, it's not just something to know, it's something to practice. So one does
Mhm.
have to practice, one does have to develop one's character. Now, I'm not saying this so much from, I'm saying this a little from experience, but more just from trying to remind everybody and myself of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like those stoic sayings. I like a stoic meditation that is not actually about sort of the things in life that you don't want to happen, but more to help you appreciate your life, as it's passing you by, which is the last time meditation. I think I mentioned that on this podcast as well, but yeah, I think that's my favorite one. I don't know. I guess it's so true too.
Mhm.
I guess maybe the literal part of me likes that, but the idea that there will be a last time you do everything in life. There will be a last time you have a cup of coffee. There will be for parents a last time when you pick up your child. It's you know, they were an infant, they were 2 years old, and it's, at some point they were 18 and you hadn't picked them up for years. And there was, there was some point where it was the last time you ever picked them up,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably didn't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's two. One more I might mention. I don't know. There's a last time I'll ever write in my journal. It's kind of a little bit of a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen my journals, my
Yeah, we
many
have several.
stacks. Uh, but yeah, that three is a good number. How about for
Mm.
you? What are some last time meditations you would have?
Um, well, maybe I unintentionally did one because the other day my brother has this ritual that whenever he comes home, he'll give me like a little head rub as like a greeting, kind of his way of showing affection.
That's
And
good.
before that, I kind of wouldn't, I'd greet him back and, say hi to him, but I wouldn't really return the affection. But then I thought that, one day he won't be able to do that anymore. So when I
Yeah.
came back home the other next day, because I came back before him this time, like I gave him a little head rub back.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
good. How did that feel?
that felt nice.
That's
Yeah,
good. Did he seem to respond?
yeah, he seemed to like it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. We take things we experience for a while for granted, and then it's not going to happen at some point, and it's never going to happen again at some point. Uh, okay. I did three. How about two more?
Mm, the of like times I thought of the last time one,
Yeah,
or
or yeah, last time
mm,
meditations for you.
oh
Well,
yeah,
maybe
like
you'll think of more later.
yeah, the next one I thought is there'll be a last time we do a Zoom. So
Yeah, there will be a
yeah.
last time we ever do a Zoom. There will be a
Mm,
last time of this podcast.
mm,
It will happen.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, so I should come with a good attitude, even though sometimes I feel anxious or like I
Yeah.
don't know what I'll say. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
There'll be a last time you speak. There'll be a last word.
Mm,
It's kind of crazy. There'll be a
mm,
last breath that you take. Yeah. Yeah, the last time meditation, I like that. Do you go much on the Waking Up app anymore? You use it sometimes for your
Recently,
class?
like yeah, I go on it at least weekly for the class, but I haven't been on it on my own time. But I did notice there were like more series uploaded that seemed
Yeah, they're
really
always
good.
doing that.
Yeah, like I was really excited for one, but I just forgot what it was. Maybe it was about dealing with, I don't know, like some kind of negative emotions or something.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I thought like how a lot of people might benefit from that.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, I just listen to the little I do the daily meditation sometimes, and I do my own meditations using their timer. Helps to have the bell and everything. And somewhat recently, I did some of the Henry Shukman, like longer meditations. I don't remember. Yeah, yeah. Well, uh, yeah. Watching out for the appetites of your heart. Maybe we'll continue to do that this week. Any more thoughts you have right now about that?
Mhm. Not so far, just that I need to work on it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one thing is to do the daily practice, like for it to be fresh. And I have thoughts about that, but but also regular. I think that that's very important. Okay. Well, until next time,
Mm.
okay, we'll take care.
Bye.